if you are in Midlands, Worcester is known to everyone. We have a Worcester BOSCH, the largest boiler producer in the UK. And I was fortunate enough to work with them to transform their team into agile team, and they are willing to experiment with their manufacturing and implementing agile there. So let's talk about that thing. Uh, by the way, this is exploded view of a old boiler. Uh, I cannot disclose the current boiler because of the confidentiality of the new design. This is an old boiler, and I just wanted to demonstrate, how the exploded view will look like. How if you go for a modular approach. So the primary goal for this Bosch was, this is I'm talking about 2 years ago when we started, is to implement an agile process framework to support the new module design. So they wanted to move away from the product based design to a modular designing. That was the key objective. uh, had a many internal customers and multiple stakeholders. So if you're producing one particular component, one particular module, then that module will be used by other variant of the boilers. As you can see, is a very complex manufacturing process where the modules will be pulled from various sources to assemble an appliance. So it's not just a Worcester Bosch producing one particular module. Module were produced in various other factories and across UK and EU, and then pulled together to assemble one particular model of the boiler. So it was a very complex manufacturing process. Also, they have a traditional and it's a proven one, TTM process framework, which is about the project management framework, time to market. It's proven, and they've been using this. Uh, really, which was traditional, and they wanted to kind of make a lightweight approach to product development. And the challenge was the module design needed to be ready by mid 2016, and this whole project was supposed to be finished in first quarter of 2017. We'll talk about that a bit later. So the key objective when we started with this scenario, and we were engaged in the initially, and they wanted to implement something. So we've been asked that, okay, first thing is adoption and implementation of Scrum. Second thing, we wanted to tailor this approach, tailor this Scrum training, and we wanted to optimize the Scrum practices to suit to Bosch's environment, because the teams were following TTM, which is time to market framework, and we wanted to optimize this Scrum practice so that it fits with the current culture, current way of delivery, and with the least resistance. And also needed some kind of intensive coaching on site, so that hand holding is there, and then we achieving what we want to achieve on time. So obviously, if you this is as a new industry altogether. So for me, it was, we've been coming from software background, agile and Scrum been implemented in software. The challenge was coming to a manufacturing industry. How do we go and do that? Luckily, I had some experience. So the combined role. First challenge we found was, the first challenge is that due to resource constraint, we were challenged to combine Scrum Master and Product Owner role. So there was one person, and whereas in traditional Scrum world or Agile world, we have a very distinct two different roles. But this was the challenge. Second challenge was dependency. There were so many modules, so many projects was running using waterfall methodology, and this particular project, which we where we were piloting Scrum and Agile, was feeding into waterfall projects and matching its release dates with the other projects. That was very, very important challenge, and then we felt it was challenging. At the same time, we had distributed and shared team, so they were distributed across UK and EU. And at the same time, resources like purchase, manufacturing, risk management, they were shared across various projects. So nobody was dedicated. There was no concept of dedicated project team. And as you would know, if you are using Agile or Scrum, we need a co-located, dedicated team to succeed. So this was one of the biggest challenge we found, that no one was 100% assigned to a project, and they were sitting in different locations. So with these challenges, First thing I understand, we need to have some kind of strategy to deliver this kind of a project, make those changes. But how many people have heard about Peter Drucker? Peter Drucker said this: the culture of the organization is strategy for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So basically, if you have a bad culture or if you have a traditional culture, it's very difficult. Even if you have a brilliant strategy, it'll never work if you have a culture. So the biggest challenge we saw was a cultural change, bringing that cultural change. Bosch, Worcester Bosch specifically, being a traditional organization and been there for more than 30, 40 years, uh, it has its own culture. And we wanted to bring some changes to mindset, which was the biggest challenge. And obviously it comes with a, as I said, the organization culture. It came with some kind of a constraints. So we had, it was very, very process driven. Any, like any other manufacturing industry, you have a lean Six Sigma, where you have a proven process and all those things. So heavily um, process driven, and the processes were very, very mature. Um, there was hierarchy, management structure there, which is any other organization. So there's nothing wrong. So I'm not criticizing that structure. The structure, most of the organization, we have a hierarchy. So we take permission from senior takes permission from the senior directors, and director take permission from CEO. So it's always this, though we call it empowered people, but we still have dependencies on senior management. Okay. At the same time, biggest constraint was Booster is currently market leader, and they want to maintain that thing. And if you want to maintain the market leadership, you are very, very risk averse. You cannot take any risk of changing any existing process, because this process are proven process, and you would never go and change those things. So it makes organization risk averse basically. And because of the existing project method, we had deeply embedded waterfall mindset. So people wait for one activity to finish and then start second activities. This is a very generic statement I'm saying, but most of the organization, you'll see that thing. People wait for something to finish and then they start. So, and obviously because of that thing, we had to go and have the upfront requirement gathering, analyzing, and designing everything happens. And then once everything has been approved, then only you go start doing a production of that product or module. So these are the kind of a constraint we had when we started this project. So what approach did we take? Okay, it was difficult, uh, a new altogether a new area where we were exploring, and we are trying to do this thing. So we thought, okay, let's define our approach, how are we going to do that thing. So we said, okay, let's take the small steps. Let's plan, do, and check. So this is a kind of a continuous improvement kind of a thing. So we wanted to do a small bit and then check whether it's working or not, and give the feedback and adjust the way we're doing. Then second thing is, let's change the mindset and the culture. So bring that cultural change. And obviously there were resistance because of that changes happening. Third thing, we thought about the training of team and middle management, because they were supposed to deliver this and they were supposed to support this. Uh, Fourth thing was, we needed some kind of a buying in from board members. We needed them to support us. We needed them to empower the team members and middle management team. So that was very important to have that one. So we planned that meeting, and then we finally decided that, yeah, instead of just training people, we need a consultation and coaching support throughout the life cycle of this project. So we agreed on this approach. So steps we took: first of all, we did a management rollout. We moved on to acquiring a dedicated Scrum room where people can collaborate and co-locate. Then we started customizing on coaching and training program. We did a gap analysis. We understood the knowledge gap and experience gap from various people, and this was altogether new methodology. But there were few people already trained and they had experimented, so we kind of had a mix of experience there. Then we started actually adapting to changes and then implementing this agile and scrum processes. And as we went along, we optimized these processes. We used planning poker and sprint planning, etc. Uh, and then we planned the whole release. And based on that thing, we started using a tool called Jira later on once we started maturing and started feeling comfortable. And we continued actually coaching support throughout the life cycle. So these are the steps we took during the transformation. Uh, so in normal traditional Scrum team, we formed a Scrum team. So we decided that we are going to use Scrum methodology. This is your traditional team. This is how a traditional team looks like. You have a product owner, you have a Scrum master, and then you have a development team. But here, scenario was different. We had a slightly different structure, but as I mentioned before, that there was a constraint on resources. So we decided to combine the role of product owner and scrum master, which is not ideal, which is not recommended, but we had to combine that. And that the scrum master, original scrum master, became lead scrum master plus internal agile change agent. So this person was helping us to promote across business and other departments so that we are well supported. Then we had Scrum team coming from various environment like design, manufacturing, purchase, risk management team, quality team. So the people coming from various department coming working on this. And then we had stakeholders who are going to consume either our module or our product or variant of the boiler. So we have slightly different structure, not ideal, not to the textbook, but that is how we adopted to the scenario there. We started with simple estimation. So this is a normal journey when people start sizing and how much work and all those things. And traditionally, you define your task or work package in number of days and man hours and man days, all this. So it was a very difficult initially to convince people to go to t-shirt sizing. So we started with a t-shirt sizing where the small, medium, large, and extra large kind of thing. uh, People still struggle to understand how t-shirt sizing works. Why should we do this kind of thing? Why we are not estimating them in number of days or number of hours? So we came up with a slightly more clever, more related to a manufacturing kind of a world. We said, okay, let's have two factors which we can use. One is a complexity, and second is effort. So a task takes certain number of days effort wise, and it's a very simple effort, simple task or a very complex task. And based on that, if it's a very high effort but very low complexity, then it's a number five, which is a kind of a scooter. uh, and if it's a very high complexity and at the same time high um, effort wise, then we are building a lorry. So people could then start relating to the complexity and effort and what they were building. So it became much easier actually. And moment we went to something like building a ship or building a rocket, then they knew it's a very large and they cannot fit into 3 to 4 weeks kind of a cycle. So it was a kind of an indication for the team to let's break it down, make it smaller, and a smaller module or smaller part. So it was interesting how we went from this journey to that journey, and then we still translated that into a kind of a story points. And so it was interesting how estimation evolved there. Uh, we started using, so now the biggest challenge was is in any traditional organization. Bosch is not an exception. You need to start reporting your progress, how your project is progressing. Is there a risk? Are you behind or you're ahead? How much money and all those things? So the standard progress reporting. We were using Jira for maintaining the product backlog. So Jira helped us in actually getting the burn down. And that was a very interesting. Quite a few people started taking interest in looking at the burn down chart, because it made very easy for them to translate or understand what exactly happening in the team, how much they are achieving, how much they are not likely to finish in the sprint. So this was very interesting, and we updated it quite regularly so that people, while walking past your team, they could see how they're progressing. a very good indicator. And at the same time, we started maintaining a kind of a velocity chart just to demonstrate how much we can deliver and how much we improving actually. So it demonstrated that improvement. Then when we started, we're like 38 story points, but by the time we reached to sprint 4, it was nearly 55 story points we were delivering. So that demonstrated improvement and understanding. I think there's some question. I'll just quickly stop and look at the question. Okay, DOS has just joined. Hi DOS, welcome. Thanks for joining. Okay, so this was a progress tracking. Then we came up with a this is another thing which was we were asking, and then very difficult for other organization to organize this thing is dedicated scrum room. And we were lucky enough to have the dedicated scrum room where we had our board and displays and all those things, loads of whiteboard, projector and every facility, and we had our cuddly toy as well and loads of food. So it was a very dedicated environment, and the team started feeling that that they are working on a special mission. So that was very good, where we could collaborate with each other, away from noises, away from distraction. Team could sit together and start working on this. Uh, I think in any change or transformation, the biggest challenge is a management support. Uh, and there could be a number of reasons why management cannot support you, or the way they support, or the way they have the mindset. So we had a very good management support in this scenario when we were doing this, because they bought into this idea of doing this. So they started quickly adopting to change. They started supporting their subordinates and staff, allowing them to learn, allowing them to fail, and those kind of things started happening there very quickly. So we created a type of environment where the failure is acceptable. If you into a manufacturing industry, the quality is the most important thing, and the failure is not acceptable. And lean is dead against failing. And whereas with coming with a mindset and then implementing agile and saying that yeah, it's okay to fail was a bit of a challenge, but management supported that. Then we changed how team approach problem. So it's not the tools used to solve them. So it's the approach, how they solve the problems there. uh, so everyone communicated frequently, internal, external, and end users were there. Various other departments were there, senior managers coming to show and tell and supporting that internal feedback, because it was very very important. So we were getting those feedbacks within 2 weeks or 3 weeks kind of cycle. uh, and constant learning. So we were learning all the time. So it's not just the product. I've been producing this product since last 30 years. It was new thing we were doing. We were taking a modular approach, and so people were going and researching and learning all the time. So that was very very important, and management allowed people to go and do this learning. So the benefits we got, part of this implementation of agile was, first of all, the project became in a very very manageable chunk. Okay, so smaller chunks instead of a big long 2 years project becomes manageable. Then we started sharing information with various department and various people. So that was very very interesting, that how we share information and then became very transparent. Collaboration, that was fantastic. After 3 to 4 sprint, I got the feedback from the team that they are really enjoying working with each other. They have been emailing each other, but they had never seen those people, but they were working together in a single room and trying to deliver this one. So the collaboration increased dramatically. So this helped in building the close knit team culture, joint ownership. So it wasn't R&D responsible or the quality responsible or manufacturing team responsible. It was joint responsibility, and everybody was keen on delivering this project. So that was a very, then the priorities became very very transparent, very very obvious to everyone. This is the most important thing, and why it's and why that is important. So priority was justified, and so that people could do this thing. and made it transparent to everyone. This had been actually on a daily basis. We didn't meet on a daily basis, so there was no daily stand up. We had this on Tuesdays and Thursdays, because people were still traveling from long distance and coming to this one, and not everyone had a regular feedback because the nature of manufacturing industry. But we had, since we were meeting regularly, we had a very early visibility of anything going to block our project or progress, so we could go and proactively fix those problems. As I mentioned, I showed the picture. We had a dedicated Scrum room where people can interact and collaborate with each other. Uh, this was something different happening. So far it was a project focus. Now we're focusing on product. So the whole focus switched from project to product, and it was this journey was amazing. And suddenly we people started just thinking about product, and that kind of helped us in reducing the overheads and the activities which may not be necessary in order to deliver this product. So the whole focus moved from project to product. Um, so again, similar to sprint focus versus project lifecycle focus, though we had the whole roadmap and a good understanding of what needs to be delivered when, but at the same time, the team was focusing on next 2 to 4 weeks, kind of a okay, this is what the next target is. Let's sprint and achieve those targets. So the focus was very narrowed and very kind of a around the priorities of the product which we needed to deliver. When we started, there were loads of uncertainties because there was a requirement we're still forming and we're still collecting requirements. Whereas department have not given their requirements for this product, and in traditional world, you will wait for this things to mature, but we did not. We went and started building our product, and then we started showing those products to various stakeholders and seeking feedback. So that's uncertainty about the requirements not being there, or requirements not being stable. um, we just came across by building that thing based on the what we knew that time and demonstrated that, so which made much easier actually for end user to get convinced or provide feedback instantly. This feedback helped us to align the whole team, align the whole product, align the whole component very quickly, and this helped us in actually continuously improve our process because there was a built-in retrospective. So it's not like a traditional lesson learned which was done in once in 3 months or 6 months time. By the time you've already forgotten what went wrong and what was working for you, this was the regular retrospective. We made it very interactive, very interesting. Every 2 to 4 weeks we'll meet up and then try and improve what is working for us, what is not working for us, what can be improved, and those kind of things. So these are the benefits which we saw during this whole project. So with that, I'm just coming up to the question. I had quite a few people asking questions. How can I implement? These are the problem. No, this method cannot work here, and all those things. So I tried to list few of the frequently asked questions or doubts or the top reasons which manufacturing companies. When I spoke to quite a few people outside. So one is our product is too complicated to not to plan everything meticulously in advance. Okay, so yeah, okay, fair enough. There's another excuse, not reason, I'll call it excuse. Our quality expectations are too high to not to follow a documented or unvarying plan. Um, so this is something which we said, okay, let's come up with a basic product backlog and start building some product. Whereas in traditional manufacturing, they would say, no, we need to document everything and then have to have a proper plan. Then only we build because quality is important to us. Yeah, answer to that is yeah, there's a fundamental misunderstanding of agile principles. Agile never says that you do not document or do not plan things properly. We always plan, we always have a long term plan, and then we have a short term plan. We do not go and elaborate the requirements which you are going to deliver in 6 months time or 1 year time, because the requirement may change, and that's why there's a fundamental misunderstanding. So we all do all those things. If it's complicated, is makes more reason why you should do this thing, because once you have done iterative or incremental product, then you can actually get the feedback from customer and see whether you're going in the right direction or not. If you do build the whole product and then go back and ask for feedback, is too expensive to go back and rework on those products. So that's the kind of an answer to your doubts. Another excuse, another reason that people gave, that we have already made large investment in fixed machinery and tooling, so we can't change our process, we can't change our product line, and we can't change introduce new variant. Fair enough. Then another excuse is our product design is too tightly coupled to iterate modules without changing the entire design. Fair enough. Answer is again, the current impediments that can be addressed iteratively over time. So if you see there's a problem, then you can address it immediately and move on. Similarly, our vendors are not agile. This was the biggest challenge even I had with other organizations, where third-party suppliers were we were relying on third-party supplier to give us a product. And the biggest excuse I hear is, "Oh no, my third-party supplier is not agile enough to support my approach." Okay, how can I do that thing? Another one we say is the key steps of manufacturing process requires long lead time to fit in sprint. So it can't be done in 3 weeks or 4 weeks time. I completely understand, because it needs to go for tooling, it needs to go through the whole project purchase process, which takes 3 to 6 months. But fine, these are the key issues. It requires creative thinking to solve. So you need to think creatively. A very good example of same thing with the project in this discussion was life cycle of purchase. So anytime you wanted something, you need to approach project. People get approval, then go to purchase. Purchase will go through a whole market and find some quotes and shortlist three suppliers, and then these three suppliers being evaluated, and then one supplier. By the time you get the product, it's 6 months minimum, 4 to 6 months, and that was a long lead time. And we started actually working closely with the product purchase department. So one representative, two representative rather, came to our team and they started working. So they could anticipate what is we going to procure next 1 month or next sprint. They start processing early on, and we managed to get items ordered and received immediately. So it didn't cause much of a problem with us. So all the reasons you can think you can't do this have already been solved. So there's no excuse not to follow agile. Okay. So with that, I would say this is an example of Tesla, my dream car. Soon, hopefully, some one day I'll be buying this car. But the companies are starting to leverage agile manufacturing to succeed in the market. Most of the organization. So Tesla is one good example. Volvo, I've explained. Aircraft. The first car company started doing Agile and Scrum was Wiki Speed, US based company. Maybe in future, one of the webinar I can cover the extreme manufacturing, which is used for most of the manufacturing industry, and so on and so forth. So there are organizations in manufacturing. Uh, I think in the UK, BOSCH may be the one of the first organization to adopt this. And if anybody else from any manufacturing, I think it's a good idea to go and explore this world, and it definitely will see a dramatic improvement in how you introduce new product to market. So biggest question is your competitor one of them who is doing agile and you're not doing it?